Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies You Missed. I'm John. This is episode 30. V, how the hell are you today?
I'm doing very well. It's good to see you again, John.
Absolutely. Good to be back this week. Some fun movies this week. A little bit of fun. I gotta say, I enjoyed my time with both of these films. I'm looking forward to getting into talking about them. Have you, how's your week been? Anything new? Anything going on? Have you seen anything good this week?
I haven't, unfortunately, this week, but I was really looking forward to tonight because I feel like we haven't gotten a chance to talk much this week as we have other weeks.
Yeah, that's true. It's been busy on my end. A couple of things going on in the mornings, and at work it's a little difficult to have my phone out, but yeah, I'm excited to get into this week. I think there'll be some good discussions. I'm curious if anybody's even seen my pick, to be completely honest with you. I feel like your pick is the more popular one of the two this week.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's reflected in the box office too, and the people I talk to have heard of my movie before, if not already seen it. So yeah, I agree with you, and unfortunately, I was busy too this week, so I didn't see anything. Did you get a chance to watch any new movies this week?
Well, I'll tell you this. I didn't watch any new movies. Just a few hours ago, before you and I got on today, I decided to go into my theater room, turn off all the lights. I turned the lights on that I have behind my TV. I turned them to blue. And I went to YouTube and I watched the trailer for Avatar: The Way of Water.
Nice.
I watched it 3 times in a row. And I got increasingly worked up every time I watched it. I cannot fucking wait for this movie.
I'm so glad to hear that. I watched the new trailer the other day and, of course, thought of you the entire time. And Avatar does hold a special place in my heart because of how it brought you and I closer together.
Yes.
I have tempered expectations because, the story itself of Avatar, as you and I both like to joke, it's Blue Pocahontas.
Yeah, of course, yes. Everybody knows that the first Avatar is lacking in the story department, absolutely. It's really more of the experience of the movie itself and everything coming together, and that's one reason why I'm excited about it. And this trailer didn't necessarily give a whole lot of the story away, but there's enough to kind of piece together that the story's continuing. It's not going to be some, brand new thing. And again, like I said, I watched it 3 times in a row. It's 2.5 minutes, and the visuals on my 4K television were pretty spectacular, so I can just only imagine what we're going to be treated with when the movie comes out on December 16th.
I agree with all of that. And another reason why I'm excited, again, I have tempered expectations about the storyline itself, even for the second one. However, I'm pumped that you and I are continuing our experience together as well and making sure that we have both committed to watch this movie together in theaters. We won't watch it without each other. So that's I'm really, really looking forward to that experience.
Absolutely. That's going to be a good one. So yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I've seen this week, other than the 2 movies that we have picked for this week, which, again, I'm looking forward to discussing because they are fun. Would you like to jump right in?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So this is episode 30. It is my turn first.
Yes, 30 episodes, by the way. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, right back at you, buddy.
Yes, we did just recently hit 1,500 downloads, 1,500, so that's pretty awesome too. A round of applause for both of us, pats on the back.
And to all of our listeners, big round of applause for all of you as well. Thank you so much
Thank you very much.
Being here, sticking with us if you've been here since the beginning, or joining us for this ride that we're on.
Yeah, very much appreciated everybody that does give us any feedback. And the fact that we have listeners from several different countries now, which V informed me of this afternoon. So that's very, very awesome.
Yes, we have some new listeners in Mexico and Germany. So if any of you are out there, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to give you a shout out on the podcast.
Absolutely would. Thank you guys for coming in and tuning in with us. So again, without further ado, V.
We promise this time. I'll get started.
Yes, we do. There's been some banter this beginning.
Yes, so this week we are covering fairy tales and alternative storylines to the classic fairy tales that most of us know. And I really like this subgenre. There's a couple other movies like these that have a bit of a twist on the classic fairy tales. I'm thinking of Snow White, A Tale of Terror with Sigourney Weaver. It's great.
Oh, I don't even know of that
Oh, it's
one.
like a horror movie. It's awesome.
No shit.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
I've never heard of this. This sounds fantastic.
Yes, I'll add it to the list at some point. Sam Neill's in it,
Please
too.
do. Sam Neill and Sigourney Weaver. That sounds like quite the pairing.
It is, and I really enjoy that movie, and so does my dad. And so, yeah, I'll definitely have to introduce you to it at some point. Others in this genre include Enchanted, Maleficent, just the creative alternate telling of these stories that have been around for hundreds of years. I really like when someone puts a twist on something like that.
As do I. And like you said, Maleficent is in there. I saw Maleficent several years ago around when my wife moved in. We bought the Blu-ray. I had never seen it. And my wife was like, this is a good movie. I'm like, I'm really not an Angelina Jolie fan.
Yeah.
She goes, no, you got to check it out. So we put it on, and it was maybe 20 minutes into the movie, and I looked at her, I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is badass. I think another one would be Snow White and the Huntsman for me. I thought that one was a lot of fucking fun. I saw that in theaters. I thought Hemsworth was great, and Charlize Theron was fucking badass.
She is a great evil queen. My biggest problem with that movie is Snow White was completely miscast.
Oh, 100%. And that was one of your, except if you thinks early on in this series.
Early on. That's right. I think that was episode 2 that I said that.
I think it was, yeah. Yep. Yes, it was.
Oh, man. So, yes. So for our listeners, that is the genre, and there are multiple to choose from. This week, my choice was a Drew Barrymore-helmed film from 1998 called Ever After, A Cinderella Story.
Aww.
Yeah. And I've always really loved this movie. I watched it after it came out on DVD. My parents bought
you never saw it in theaters?
I didn't, because where I grew up on a farm in Northern California, the closest movie theater was 30 minutes away.
Oh.
And my parents had 5 kids, so like schlepping them all to the theaters and paying for movie tickets and snacks was not something we did very often.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, so in my later teens, when I had my license, I went to the movie theater much more often. And so movies in the late 90s and early 2000s is where I really started to see them in the theater first. So, but yes, really enjoy this movie. It is based on the Cinderella story. However, it is one of the few tellings of a fairy tale that does not have any magic in it.
Oh, you know what? Interesting. Yeah, I guess there is no fairy godmother, no bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. And I did notice that there's no Jacques or Gus either. Like, not even kind of like how in the Disney Cinderella with my favorite, Lily James, directed by Kenneth Branagh, they do incorporate the mice, not as, comically or animated like, but they are included in there. And this might be the only other Cinderella version beyond the animated and Lily James version that I've seen. I actually never did see the Whitney Houston Brandy Cinderella.
I did. It's very good.
Is it? Okay. Well, maybe I'll check that one out sometime.
So this is the first live-action retelling of a Disney movie I think I'd seen at that point. So Cinderella, classic story that most of us know. There's a couple of key differences on how Cinderella acts and plays out and who's involved and what characters there are. So first and foremost, this is based in France, which is very prominent in this movie versus the animated version that you're not super clear on where this takes place.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's very arbitrary in the animated version. Like, where is this exactly?
Same with most animated versions, I would think.
Yeah, it's true. Good point.
These stories. But the cool thing is that you get a really nice background of where Cinderella comes from. You get introduced to her father, who unfortunately passes away when she's very young, and her brand new stepmother, who had just moved in with her 2 daughters, takes over the household. And there, of course, is that evil stepmother trope that Cinderella helped develop, the original at least. And that is played wonderfully by Angelica Houston. She is so good at being just deliciously evil. She loves playing those roles, it seems like. She has a lot of fun. I, of course, think of her in The Witches, that classic evil role she had that she was amazing in.
She really is fucking badass in The Witches as the Grand High Witch.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
My wife and I watched it on Halloween while we were waiting for trick-or-treaters, and during the transformation scene, I had to go and research a little bit on how that was done. 8 hours in the makeup chair.
Fuck, that sucks.
8 hours to become the Grand High Witch. And then, of course, there's the one sequence where Rowan Atkinson is coming back and she's trying to put like half her face back on. And then, they edited it enough to where it's like, oh, Grand High Witch is back to looking like Angelica Houston. And she's so strangely beautiful, too. Like, she is like, I don't know what it is, but Angelica Houston, there's something about her.
I agree.
Maybe it's the Morticia and the gothic, literally like so gothic, like every time she's on screen, even in this movie and most movies that she's in, She's very brooding.
And I think it's captivating.
Yeah, definitely.
She's really attractive in that energy kind of way, right? I mean, she is someone could argue she is conventionally attractive, but more than that, she's very captivating. Her energy is so cool, and I will forever and always love her. In the Addams Family movies, her and Raul Julia played off each other so well, and she was the perfect Morticia. Oh my gosh, I love her in those movies. And the funny thing is you talking about how alluring she is, you're not the only one to think that, because
oh, is that right?
Yeah, she had a very serious relationship with Jack Nicholson for quite a while.
Oh.
And then
what? I had no idea about that one at all.
Jack Nicholson being Jack, he cheated on her a whole bunch of times, and she was finally like, okay, I'm over this, I'm out. And later on in the 90s, or like late 90s, early 2000s, he was interviewed, and he talked about Angelica being one of the greatest regrets of his life is ruining that relationship, because she was basically the love of his life.
Wow.
Yeah, he's talked about it pretty in depth, and I was like, dude, yeah.
No shit.
Why'd you screw that relationship up? She's amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and so she plays the evil stepmother, and Drew Barrymore plays Cinderella. And the cool thing about this movie and this retelling, and why I love it so much, is because she is not a damsel in distress.
Yeah, that's true.
At any point in this movie, she holds her own, she's strong, she's capable, she pushes back, she has a voice. I absolutely love that about a quote-unquote Disney princess.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We've talked about that to extent, actually.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And so that is one of the main reasons why I love this movie so much. The other reason I love it is because the countryside that they film in is gorgeous. I love the costumes. I love the palaces they film at. I love all of the sets. Everywhere they film is just beautiful.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. After having texted you about 20 minutes in and being very unsure about what I was watching, because I have not seen this movie since junior high,
right?
I did start to think about the landscape, the locations, the costumes, and everything. And I was like, yeah, this is put together pretty well. Like for thinking about the time also, which we do often with some of the movies that came out. Granted, this movie's supposed to be set way back in the day, so. There's definitely an authenticity to it that you can feel while watching this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like that in this telling, not everybody is purely evil or purely good. I think the characters are pretty well developed and pretty three-dimensional. And they really go into the background of not only Prince Henry, who's quote-unquote Prince Charming, but also his parents, her friend, the servants in the house with Cinderella. Her name's Danielle. Her name actually isn't Cinderella in this movie. And the scene where one of the servants is being sold because they can't pay their debts or their taxes. And Danielle's and the other servants' heartbreak around that is very palpable. And, he seems like a real person. And then you start thinking about, God, back in the day when there were different classes of people and you can't rise above your station, and how confining that must have been, and how sad that these people don't get days off. This was they were servants for 7 days a week their whole lives, and that was their life. Yeah,
it's funny watching movies like this, and even going back to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, like there's the one servant girl, and it's like, do they get a day off? And like watching this movie, I started to actually kind of put that together too. It's like, no, if you are in the kitchen or you're doing the laundry of the higher up in the household, then you're there all day every day
forever.
So it's like until you're dead. And that scene where he actually he's bought back, or no, not was he bought back or released?
She bought him back, yeah. So
that's
Danielle
right, yeah. So he
goes
was bought back,
to buy back the servant, and she pretends to be a courtier, and so that's when she runs into the prince. And that whole scene where she has to go buy him back, I mean, that's so heartbreaking. And then you think about it, it's like, these servants had no choice, and then they're being shipped off to another country. Yeah, that was nuts. That was a wild scene because she brings him back to her place, and then he gets reunited with his wife. Exactly, yeah. His wife, who's a servant, is just stuck there and thinking that her husband's been sold and she's never going to see him again. How fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this movie goes through a retelling of the Cinderella story, and like I said, with several twists. And so I'm not going to get too much into the plot because everybody kind of knows it, I think.
Yeah.
But just to say that I really like the actors in this movie. Angelica Houston's one-liners were fucking gold. Oh my gosh. Some of them
were pretty good.
Really, really good. Like when she's like, some people read because they cannot think for themselves, because she's like trying to insult Danielle, who likes to read.
Right.
Some people read because they cannot think for themselves.
She had a lot of really good one-liners, especially in the first 30 minutes or so of this movie, where it's like, darling, nothing is final until you are dead. And even then, I'm sure God negotiates.
Darling, nothing is final until you're dead. And even then, I'm sure God negotiates.
I like that one quite a bit. Yeah. That one was good.
So she's great at running the household and being pretty devious during this whole story. And I just really enjoyed her in it. I think probably the most out of anybody else, even though I do really enjoy everybody else in this movie. And the last thing I'll say is, again, this doesn't have any magic in it, but Leonardo da Vinci is a big character in this movie.
I thought that was great.
Right?
I like the incorporation of him.
I love the addition to him, and he's kind of a helper to, of course, the plot line, but also, he kind of is that stand-in for the fairy godmother, because he does help them along a little bit.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting way to look at that. I completely concur with that one. I really liked his incorporation, and I thought it was hilarious that they were like, well, Michelangelo was summoned to paint the ceiling of a church, and it was kind of like, oh, well, the Sistine Chapel is probably what they're talking about.
Exactly, yeah. Your father requested me because Michelangelo was stuck under a ceiling.
Thank you. Yes, that was the line. I remember being like, wow, well, that's a clever one. I like that.
Yeah, there's some good nods of history and culture
historical
in this movie.
Figures. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly.
That was one thing I did enjoy about Ever After. I liked that there was the incorporation of actual history in that world that was created to tell the story of Cinderella. And at the same time, you think about a movie like this and a story like this, while it is quote unquote fairy tale, it had to have happened to somebody, right? I mean, there had to have been one young lady of the house that's dad died and he got remarried after his wife passed, and then all of a sudden, maybe not to the extreme of this woman doing the laundry and washing the feet of her evil stepsisters, but it just kind of feels like it's more of a realistic story than just a fairy tale.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, kids getting relegated because they're quote-unquote real kids. Oh, yeah.
Right.
I've seen that time and again. And also royalty marrying a commoner. We've seen that a bunch of times, including recently in England.
That's right. Yeah, apparently she was on Let's Make a Deal, and the prince was like, wow, she's hot, and he has now made her the princess of England, or whatever it is. I don't really follow UK politics.
Duchess and Duke and Duchess now, I think. I mean, I'm an American. Isn't it a requirement that I don't care or follow the British royalty anymore?
I think so.
Since
most
1776, I shouldn't be doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the only English royalty I feel very strongly about is Jonathan Groff's portrayal of King George III in Hamilton.
Absolutely. And that is definitely another one that I need to revisit. I haven't watched that one in some time.
So back to Ever After. Other than Angelica Houston in this movie, there are some other really great actors that, like I said, I think were casted quite well. The first being Drew Barrymore in the title role of Cinderella. Her name is Danielle, as I mentioned, in this movie, in this retelling. I will always love her in E.T.
Oh my gosh. Of course. E.T., Firestarter. What else was she in? So many movies. As a child, Scream.
Yes,
Casey. Of course. How could we forget? And then we have Charlie's Angels. I really liked her in the first Charlie's Angels, which was, I think, 2000, 2001. Lucy Liu and Cameron Diaz, Bill Murray.
The Wedding Singer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. 50 First Fucking Dates. Good one. Pretty good. Definitely. Yeah, she's been in some good movies. She's had a good tenure, and I've had the pleasure of working with her on Santa Clarita Diet, and she is a fantastic human from my experience with her anyway.
I've heard nothing but wonderful things about her, and including from you as well, because you had worked with her, and I think it's so cool you had an opportunity to do that.
As do I, yeah. Me and my ideas and thoughts about Netflix as a production company, but I enjoyed working on that show, and it likely was because of her and Timothy Olyphant. I mean, I honestly haven't even finished a full season of Santa Clarita Diet, but I know a lot of people do like it. And then I never finished
Well,
it.
it's
I
'cause
didn't
you know
finish
what
it because I didn't
happens.
think it was good. That's maybe what it is too. But I remember watching the first few episodes of season 1 and thought it was very clever and thought it was actually a very entertaining show, and it would have been great on like FX or maybe HBO or something like that. But overall, it was a fine show and definitely a fun show to be on.
That's funny. That actually brings up a really good point. I haven't seen a lot of the things that I've worked on before because I was like, well, I saw the minutia of it, so why do I sit down and watch it when it's a 2-hour movie, but it took 2 or 3 months to work on, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm wondering, have you watched a lot of the stuff you've worked on?
I've watched every single thing I've ever worked on.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, good.
Except for, of course, now Santa Clarita Diet. I've seen all of Lucifer. I did the pilot for Lucifer. I did season 3. I've watched all of New Girl. I did season 5 of New Girl. I've also watched all of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I was on season 9 of Curb Your Enthusiasm. But I would say at least 98% of the feature films that I've worked on, I have watched either in a theatrical experience or at home.
Okay.
And I will say that I am proud of 2 of them. And I have been an assistant director on more than 45. So it's not a great ratio.
No, but it happens. I mean, you can't be proud of everything that comes out of Hollywood.
Majority of the TV shows that I was on, I've actually been pretty proud of. NCIS: Star Trek Picard, like I said, the first few that I listed, absolutely.
Yeah. Scream Queens, Mr. Mayor.
Scream Queens season 2, oh yeah, absolutely. Jamie Lee Curtis and John Stamos and Kirstie Alley at one point. Definitely a great time, and a cheese ball of a show. Like I'd never seen Scream Queens when it was airing, but I did watch it after we wrapped the season because I worked on it, and I either wanted to see how it all came to fruition, and majority of the time it still was like, how the fuck did we do that?
Yeah.
And that was what I really liked about a lot of the TV shows.
Okay, but have you seen those Lifetime movies we worked on together?
Like I said, I've watched all of them. Except for the last one that I did, I only made it through like 8 minutes because it was such a horrendous fucking experience working on that movie, and it was such a horrendous fucking experience watching those 8 minutes. So I didn't actually finish that last one, but the cast was a good time. I will give them that.
Though, because I forgot years ago you sent me that screenshot of me. Remember when I was that bartender extra?
Yes.
They were like, hey, this bartender extra didn't show up. V, go put on a tank top and let your hair down and get behind the bar.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah. Oh my God, that was a while ago.
I totally forgot. That's right. You had watched that, and I was like, I'm never watching that.
And there may be like 4 or 5 where I actually have a bit part where I'm either background or I have one line and I'm like on screen, and nope.
Well, that's awesome because I don't think you've given as big of a rundown of your career until this moment, and episode 30 is a good episode to do that on. So we will continue talking about our career and our behind-the-scenes knowledge of the film industry because, of course, that's half our show, so we need to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
So speaking of the Santa Clarita Diet with Drew Barrymore and Timothy Olyphant, he was in a movie called Hitman, and DeGray Scott, who is Prince Charming, his name is Prince Henry in Ever After, was also in Hitman. So trying to transition us back.
Yeah. No, I've actually never seen Hitman.
You would really enjoy it.
Really?
Yes.
Isn't there like 1 or 2 of them?
Oh, there's multiple, but I've only seen the first one with Timothy Olyphant.
Oh, okay.
And it was good.
Cool. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll check it out.
DeGray Scott was also in Taken 3. He was Famke Janssen's husband.
Oh, Famke.
And he's kind of a douche.
Is he? I think I saw Taken 3 once.
It's forgettable.
Is that the one with the insane editing of like the opening chase sequence, like where the guy's like going over the fence and it's like literally edited like 95 times? It's like they really did not get enough footage for this movie.
I don't remember that part. I just remember it's the one that takes place back in LA.
Right, yeah. I love the first Taken, and how can you not? That one is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So good.
And lastly, Dougray Scott was also the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2, which we don't like to discuss here.
That's
it's
quite a forgettable one. Yeah.
It's awful.
That's the one we blow past.
Every time.
Yes, we wave as we go on to Mission Impossible 3.
Exactly.
Like, they are Mission Impossible 2. We acknowledge your existence.
Stay where you are.
Somewhatedly. Yeah, exactly. You can stay on the shelf. Exactly. Collect that dust.
Yes, and so he's Prince Henry. I think he does a great job in this movie. He definitely seems like a Prince Charming to me, especially with that hair. It's very luscious.
Oh,
in this
yeah,
movie.
that is quite, yes, definitely. I bet the hair department had a great time with him in the trailer all the time.
Just
Your hair is so pretty.
blowout every morning.
Yeah.
And Melanie Linsky is in this movie, and she's now quite well known. She's currently in the streaming show Yellow Jackets.
Oh.
She was also in Don't Look Up recently. She was Leonardo DiCaprio's wife in the movie.
Wow, forgettable.
God, that movie sucked.
That movie was... I did not like that movie either. And what a terrible, blow to just about everybody in that movie, you know? Like DiCaprio, Cate Blanchett, and so on. I remember
Jennifer.
Meryl Streep, right. Yeah, finishing that movie and being like, no.
It just seemed like they were very self-congratulatory the entire time. Like,
yes.
Look how satirical we are. Look how funny
Right.
we are. And it's like,
Right.
This wasn't very good at all.
Yeah, and, Adam McKay, every now and then he is a hit. But, yeah, Vice was strange. I felt like Adam McKay really rehashed a lot of what he did in The Big Short into Vice. And the cool thing about The Big Short was that it was a different way to tell that story. And, of course, let's do that. Why not? Absolutely, but there were moments in Vice that I just was like, this is really taking me out of the movie and taking me out of the performances, because the performances were good. You can't deny that Christian Bale was a great Dick Cheney. You really can't. He was fucking awesome. But like I said, there were moments I was like, okay, can we just get back to the real movie?
Interesting. So I haven't seen Vice, but I do really enjoy most of Adam McKay's work. I mean,
Yeah.
he makes a lot of good stuff with Will Ferrell.
Well, that's
I know that's up for debate with you. Not a huge fan of Will Ferrell, but yes, I did think The Big Short was awesome. He also made the Anchorman movies, which are hilarious.
Awful movie.
I know he made them. Did you like The Other Guys? With Mark
I actually
Wahlberg?
very much enjoy The Other Guys quite a bit. My sister
hilarious.
told me to watch it. I watched it and I was red-faced with laughter. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
And he also did Step Brothers.
Awful movie.
What?
That movie is fucking terrible. The only thing people can reiterate from that movie is there's so much room to do activities. Movie's not fucking funny, and neither is the music video that they do at the end on the fucking boat. It's not fucking funny. You all need a lobotomy from watching Step Brothers.
I thought it was funny.
Okay, well, I respect your incorrect opinion.
As we always say, comedy is the most divisive genre.
Yes, it really is.
Last couple of people in this movie that I want to mention, Drone Krabe, and apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. He's the friend in The Fugitive.
Oh, wait, Friend in The Fugitive.
Yeah, he's Harrison Ford's friend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
he's so good in that movie.
You switched the samples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's good. I like him.
Yeah,
He was in Ever After. Who did he play again? I can't remember.
her dad in the beginning.
Oh, that's right. I was seriously watching. I'm like, I've seen this guy.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned earlier, Toby Jones is in this movie.
Yeah.
He plays a little weasel. God, he's good.
Yeah, he does.
So slimy in this movie. And I talked about him a lot in the Atomic Blonde episode 2 of our podcast. He's great.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch.
And it was fun reading about the writers and director of this movie. Susanna Grant was one of the writers, and she actually was the showrunner for the miniseries Unbelievable on Netflix. I brought it up a couple episodes. Toni Collette's in it.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's a true crime miniseries. It's so good. Highly recommend it to anyone.
Okay.
And then she also wrote Erin Brockovich. She was one of the screenwriters on that.
I actually have a copy of that screenplay. I've read it a few times.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And she wrote 28 Days with Sandra Bullock.
Not 28 Days Later, which
No,
a lot of people seem to get confused.
They do.
Oddly
Two totally
enough. Like,
different
have you seen
movies.
28 Days Later? I love that movie with Sandra Bullock. Oh, no.
No. She wrote 28 episodes of Party of Five, classic 90s
Oh,
show.
well. Nev Campbell.
She was also one of 3 writers on Disney's Pocahontas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Susanna Grant's got some great credits, including this one. And the director of this movie was Andy Tennant, and he's exclusively directs rom-coms, it seems. Some of them good, some of them not so great. He directed Bounty Hunter with Jennifer Aniston and Gerard Butler.
I saw that one.
It was terrible.
I did not see it in theaters. I did not give my time that vastly to it, although for what it was, I didn't hate it. I think I was also still kind of loving the Gerard Butler train at the time.
He was much better in The Ugly Truth.
Oh, Ugly Truth is good.
Yes.
That one is good.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Andy Tennant also directed Fool's Gold with Matthew McConaughey, which is another terrible movie.
I never saw that one. That's not a Kate Hudson McConaughey,
yeah,
is it?
It's
it?
terrible.
Okay.
It's fucking terrible.
Never saw that one.
But some of the good rom-coms he directed were Hitch.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yep.
Oh, that's a good one.
Sweet Home Alabama, which is also a good one.
Oh, thumbs down.
Oh, it's cute. Melanie Linsky is actually in that movie too.
Is she?
Yeah, she's the one in the bar where Reese Witherspoon's in the bar. She's like, "Oh my god, it's good to see you. You have a baby in a bar."
Oh, yeah. I think I remember that from the trailer. I saw Sweet Home Alabama in the movie theaters. My mom took me and my sister to see it.
And lastly, he directed Fools Rush In, which is classic 90s rom-com.
Salma Hayek.
Matthew Perry, who's
Matthew
in the
Perry.
news right now, actually.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he's loving the fact that his name is being rehashed again for his dumbass comments about Keanu Reeves.
It's like attacking Big Bird. Or,
exactly.
like somebody from Sesame Street, like the most innocent, kind
come on, man.
person you could possibly pull out of a hat. Like, you dumbass.
It had to have literally been just like a complete jealousy jab at him. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, it's like there's no way Matthew Perry would have been believable in any of the Keanu Reeves roles.
I think it's a jealousy issue with River Phoenix, actually.
Well, that's also, yeah, maybe.
I'm thinking it was a jealousy issue because Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix were so close.
Oh.
And Matthew Perry was like, River Phoenix and I were really good friends.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I'm not going to read his memoir.
Well, the thing is that when he came out with his apology last week, he's like, "I'm really sorry. I misspoke. I just pulled a name out of thin air. I'm a big fan of his," or whatever bullshit apology he tried to put.
Sure.
The amount of editing that goes into a memoir or just a book in general, and the amount of times that had to be read, and not one person in his circle brought that up, or he didn't after reading his memoir multiple times after his ghostwriter gave it to him. He wasn't like, maybe that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
It's not like you just blurted that out in an interview and now have to walk it back. Like, this took months for this to be on a written page and multiple people to be like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, keep going forward with that.
Yeah, just like terrible decision making with that whole team.
Agreed indeed.
Don't come after Keanu. You will face the wrath of millions of people on the internet.
Not at all.
So yeah,
getting back to it.
Yeah. Even though you were okay with this movie, you're not a huge fan of it, but I'm glad you don't hate it. I don't
hate Ever After.
Okay, good. I'm so glad to hear that. I love this movie, and Drew Barrymore has actually stated that this is the favorite of all of her films.
Really?
Yeah. And in this movie, Danielle's portrait that Leonardo da Vinci paints is modeled after an actual da Vinci work that might have been, for some people who watch this movie, you're like, oh, wow, this painting looks so familiar. Because it is a real painting by Leonardo da Vinci. It's called La Scapigliata. Italian. And King Francis of France actually bought the Mona Lisa, which is why the Mona Lisa is a prominent feature of this movie.
Wow.
And the glass slippers, which are probably my favorite rendition of glass slippers of all of the Cinderella movies, were made by Ferragamo, which is why they're amazing.
Who's Ferragamo?
Ferragamo is a very, very famous designer of shoes.
Oh,
which
well.
is why you probably don't know what his name.
Yeah, I don't. Not at all.
That's okay. My sister, who's listening, definitely knows.
She's screaming at the radio right now, like, "How do you not know?" I am a straight male and don't know shoes. I know Timberlands and Adidas and the skater shoes from the 90s. That's about as far as I go. Vans, DC, Etny, Osiris.
My God. I forgot about your skater
I had
stage.
like a year and a half of skater stage.
I remember.
World Industries shirts. And,
I forgot about that stage. That's hilarious. Okay.
It was one of those stages of life that we all go through.
Of course. And that's Ever After. I'm glad you didn't hate it.
Yeah, no hate here, not at all. Everybody was fun to watch. Like I said, Angelica Houston's always entertaining. It took a minute for me to actually get into it, like I had mentioned earlier, but I do like Drew Barrymore quite a bit, and I did think it was cool seeing Toby Jones in this movie, and the locations were great, and the fact that the director did Hitch and a couple other ones that I've enjoyed in the past is pretty cool. I looked up the IMDb just briefly, and I was like, I don't even know who this director is, and I did not click on him because I like to learn about it through your telling me. So it was cool. It was fine. Again, I don't know how often I would watch this movie, but
Which is fine.
now that it's in the list of our episodes, and it's kind of a fall-ish movie, I think Amy added it to her list of favorite fall movies. So around this time next year, we'll probably watch it again.
Awesome. Well, I certainly love it, and it sounds like Amy loves it too, which is great. And a lot of other people loved it. It, as I said, came out in 1998. It had a $26 million budget.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, pretty.
I'm kind of surprised by that.
Pretty lean for the locations and everything, and all the costumes and like those parties they went to. There was a lot that went into those. Yeah. So it's
definitely
pretty
good amount
by
of
that.
background in that movie.
Yeah, exactly. So $26 million. In the U.S., it made 65, and its total worldwide gross was $98 million.
Huh.
So it did well.
Pretty well then.
Did really well.
Yeah.
And you can watch it for free if you have a Starz streaming account. Otherwise, you can rent it from streaming services for $3.99.
Very cool. Awesome.
All right. Well, I think that is time to continue our fairy tale of an episode and pass the mic over to you.
All right. Sounds good. I'm a little excited about this one. I haven't watched this movie in quite some time. I did see it opening weekend. I went to the Cinerama Dome at the ArcLight Cinemas on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. I chose the Matt Damon, Heath Ledger, Monica Bellucci led, written by Aaron Kruger, directed by Terry Gilliam. This is The Brothers Grimm. This movie came out in 2005, and again, stars Matt Damon, Heath Ledger, and Monica Bellucci. Also, we have our good pal, who we discussed in episode 3 as Satan, Peter Stormare is in this. We also have Jonathan Pryce, who is Elizabeth Swann's father in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
He's also the bad guy in Tomorrow Never Dies, the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie.
Oh,
He's
really?
a great bad guy. Yeah, he plays an evil news mogul, and he does very well. He's also married to Terry Hatcher in the movie The Lucky Bastard.
He's married to Terry Hatcher, like in real life?
No, in the movie. Because she's one of the Bond girls in the movie.
She's the Bond babe.
Yeah, that's his wife.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I did not know. I like Jonathan Pryce. I've always liked him.
Yeah, he's great.
He is quite the resume, and we'll get into the cast in a little bit. So the Brothers Grimm, very simply put, is about the Brothers Grimm. We all know of the Brothers Grimm. They actually were referenced in Ever After. They, written a lot of the fairy tales from back in the day. Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood. I think also the Gingerbread Man, a foretelling of the Gingerbread Man. They're going across Europe, and they are essentially witch hunters is kind of how they're labeled early on in this movie. And they're summoned to several different towns to rid these towns of these witches and these ghosts, and come to find out that they're a little bit more than just ghost hunters and witch hunters. They're actually con artist bullshitters. And you learn this in a very entertaining way. And I remember seeing this in theaters, and as we're learning of the conning that these guys have really just kind of put together and somehow have successfully not been caught yet, it is very entertaining. Like I said, this is early on in the movie, and the special effects in this sequence are actually really good. Then they just kind of go downhill from there, unfortunately. But, so, Brothers Grimm, Heath Ledger, Matt Damon, Willem, and Jacob, they are then summoned to start helping a small town figure out what is happening to the younger girls in the town. So basically, we learned that Little Red Riding Hood has now gone missing, and she's not the only one. She's one of 11 so far that has gone missing out of this town near the woods. And oddly enough, just like with The Witch and Blair Witch Project, the witches are always in the deep, darkest, recesses of the woods. They are hired by Jonathan Pryce's character. Jonathan Pryce plays a character named Della Tomba, and Peter Stormare plays a character called Cavaldi. Cavaldi is the hired gun to bring the Brothers Grimm to this town, where Della Tomba is the kind of reigning gentleman over. And this is during the French occupation of Germany, by the way, also. So this is like 1600s.
Yeah, he's
era.
the commanding officer. of the garrison that's stationed in the town, and he
Thank
has
you, yes.
a horrible accent.
Oh,
There
yes,
are
absolutely.
horrible accents in this movie.
They really are not great. No. And that's another thing that I kind of like about this movie is because, we know where it's set because we get that in a little bit of the information early on in the movie, but it's almost kind of like all these people are brought from all over Europe. There's really no real pinpointing where anybody's from.
It's a very
except
campy
for the
movie.
Brothers Grimm. Oh yeah, it's super camp, and that's another reason why I think it's so much fun. And I think this is the first time I've watched this movie in a handful of years, and it's always been a movie that I've always wanted to own. I still don't own it, so I did watch it on Stars. So there's where your opportunity to watch it lies. If you would like to check out the Brothers Grimm, is on Stars streaming right now. It's campy. It's a lot of fun, though, and you can tell that everybody is truly kind of enjoying themselves playing these characters, especially Peter Stormare. I gotta say, I think he might have had the most fun.
Him or Matt Damon?
Next to Matt Damon and Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
So the Brothers Grimm, they go out into the forest, and they're finding clues, and they find this really tall tower, almost Rapunzel-like, and we are told this story by another character who everybody would, at this point, recognize, played by Lena Headey. If you don't know who Lena Headey is, she is Cersei in Game of Thrones. She's also Mama in Judge Dredd remake. I really like her in Dredd. She is in 300. She plays the Queen.
God, she's so good in that movie.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing in that movie. And,
what a badass in that movie.
So badass. And just,
gorgeous.
So gorgeous. Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yeah, I knew you.
And she still is gorgeous. She's a beautiful woman. They really do make her ugly as fuck in Game of Thrones, more so because of her personality and her.
Oh yeah, she's
drive
just
to
rotten
take
in Game
over.
of Thrones, but she's still gorgeous. I mean, even with the short when she gets all of her hair cut off by the High Sparrow, which happens to be
Jonathan Pryce. Exactly. That's right. Yeah, they got to work together again years later in Game of Thrones. And man, that whole sequence when she's being shamed through the town,
so fucked up.
And then let's not get off on too many tangents during Brothers Grimm today. But yeah, Lena Headey and Jonathan Pryce got to work together again. I can only imagine how much fun they had doing Game of Thrones and doing this movie. So anyway, Lena Headey's character tells us a story that her father told her about this queen that was wanting to stay young forever, and Lena Headey plays Angelica in the Brothers Grimm. And this story is a story we've heard before, a witch wanting to be young forever and taking the life essence of a younger girl or even a young child. And we go back early on in our episodes also with Stardust. Michelle Pfeiffer's character was very similarly doing the same thing. And in various other stories, we all know that witches need the life essence of the young to continue to keep their beauty and whatnot. And the witch is played very, very fantastically by the gorgeous Monica Bellucci. Those of you that don't know who Monica Bellucci is, I'm sure you do. She was the Merovingian's wife in The Matrix Reloaded. She was also in one of my favorite movies that is just a complete camp blast called Shoot 'Em Up.
And she's also in Spectre. She's one of the Bond girls in Daniel Craig's movie Spectre. She was one of the age-appropriate Bond girls for him.
And out of curiosity, when we were talking about 28 Days Later, you also said Naomi Harris was in Spectre, or is she not in Spectre?
I want to say she's in Spectre. I think so. She's in the last couple of Daniel Craig Bond movies. She's actually
she's
Moneypenny.
Though.
Yeah,
okay.
she is.
I was getting those confused. Okay.
But
I thought maybe she was a Bond girl. I guess technically...
she is, because they do hook up.
Oh, well, now I really don't need to see the movie. I was going to watch it.
She's definitely in No Time to Die, the most recent one, but I can't keep a couple of those Daniel Craig Bond movies straight because honestly, I am not a fan of them.
Oh, okay. I thought you were.
I love Daniel Craig as Bond. I am so disappointed with the scripts he was given. They're all extremely forgettable, including these incredible actors who were the villains, like Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, which one was he the villain in?
I'm pretty sure he's the villain in Spectre,
Is it
actually.
Spectre? Okay.
And God, what a forgettable movie. And I was just like, of all people, one of the best villains of the 21st century so far. And you guys can't utilize him. Like, what are you doing?
That's so strange to hear. Because I felt that way about Javier Bardem in Skyfall.
Exactly.
I was just like, what the hell? I mean, granted, Bardem was good, but the movie wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a fan of the scripts that have been coming out lately for James Bond. And I thought Casino Royale was an exceptional movie and a great introduction for Daniel Craig. But Same with Pierce Brosnan. Like his last couple of scripts, like The World Is Not Enough is a terrible script. And
yeah, it's not great.
He was a great Bond, but just didn't get a good movie to be in. And I feel the same way about Daniel Craig. He's fantastic, but they're all just extremely forgettable.
Yeah. So moving on, Monica Bellucci, she plays the Mirror Queen, and she's not in the movie for a whole lot of screen time. But when she is on screen, it's very entertaining. I think that she
Favorite part
very
of the movie.
clearly, had a good time playing it, especially towards the climax of the movie. There's a lot of stuff that she is involved in that I really liked.
She's still there, Will. She's still alive. She's up in the tower. For 500 years. Yeah, but they haven't been kind, I can tell you that, Will.
And then we have Heath Ledger and Matt Damon. Oddly enough, Heath Ledger and Matt Damon, at the beginning of production of The Brothers Grimm, were cast opposite. They were both going to play the other one.
Really?
Yeah, and they both petitioned to Terry Gilliam that they wanted to actually switch their roles. And I gotta say, I'm kind of glad that it was done that way.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, let's go back to the pseudo-universe, idea of let's see this movie with Heath as Wilhelm. Let's see this movie as Matt with Jacob. But I like the way that it went. I like that Heath Ledger was the younger brother and, the not so sure of himself, but at the same time, very much believable, had that believability of a child still throughout his adult life.
And that was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. So it's interesting that they were cast opposite before the movie started, because I wrote down Heath Ledger as a nerd in my notebook because I thought that was one of the best parts. He was so good at being unsure of himself, as you said, being a little bit meek, being serious. I honestly think he did a fantastic job in his role and just reminded me of how good of an actor Heath Ledger was.
Absolutely, yeah. There are a lot of really good moments with Heath Ledger in The Brothers Grimm, most definitely. And even with Matt Damon. Matt Damon seemed to be having a lot of fun. The costumes, again, going kind of like with Ever After, the costumes in this movie are really, really cool. Mm-hmm. They're very, it's very gothic, too. Like, I liked that about it. And that kind of comes from Terry Gilliam. And granted, also, the Brothers Grimm stuff was very much on the gothic side. Terry Gilliam, however, did not have the greatest time shooting the Brothers Grimm. The Weinsteins were breathing down his neck for so long about this movie and the direction that the movie was going. Terry Gilliam had a bit of a breakdown and shut production down for 2 weeks because he could not stand what they were, instructing him to do with the movie that he was given. And if anybody knows anything about how Terry Gilliam makes a movie, it's his way or the fucking highway, regardless of who's producing the movie. And that's the one thing that always fascinates me about learning about Terry Gilliam, and especially The Brothers Grimm, because it does feel like a Terry Gilliam movie. There's not, anything that's like, oh, maybe somebody else came in to finish this movie. That definitely didn't happen. He was there from beginning to end. He's not necessarily thrilled with the end product. And when I was researching this, I was like, I read that they had shot a lot of stuff that really brought in a lot of a much darker theme, and that would have made it an R-rated movie. But the studio and the Weinsteins wanted to make it a PG-13, not necessarily family-friendly movie. I wouldn't call this a full-on family-friendly movie, because there are certain moments that are really kind of creepy. And I thought the whole gingerbread thing was fucking creepy.
Oh, yeah, that was a little creepy.
even in theaters, I remember watching this. I'm like, what in the fuck is going on?
And I wonder if this would have been a really, really good movie if the Weinsteins would have just left him the fuck alone.
I feel like it would have been. Going back to the fact that he shut down production for 2 weeks, I can only imagine what the cast was thinking. It's like, Terry's not really feeling it right now, guys. The Weinsteins are breathing down his neck. We're shutting down for 2 weeks. Enjoy your time in the Czech Republic while you can.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of Taika Waititi's comments a couple months ago, where he was like,
yes.
oh, studios need to rein in directors. And some directors need to be left alone. I mean...
Yeah, yep.
I think David Fincher is a great example. Terry Gilliam is a great example. There are multiple directors, like Quentin Tarantino. Don't have any
alone.
Production company on set. Remember the production company on set,
at all.
Yeah, leave him alone. He knows what he's doing. He can create a fantastic film. And I saw hints of a really great movie inside the Brothers Grimm. So it's really campy, you're right, and the accents are terrible. It's a bit over the top. It's a bit ludicrous. But the twist on the Brothers Grimm are con men was really interesting and creative storyline, I thought. And then they get arrested and pressured into investigating these crimes, and it turns out it's real. And then so they're thrown into something they're completely unprepared for because they're con men.
Exactly.
And that's such a great storyline. Yeah, I really like the storyline, but the hints that I saw, the little flashes of really creative storyline that could have been told in a really fascinating and more serious way. If this was a rated R movie, I think it would have been a fantastic movie that we'd still talk about more frequently. And
I agree.
Like the brothers' argument about 2/3 through the movie was a more serious scene where I was like, oh man, this could have been great if they took this more seriously. If Terry Gilliam, like as you're telling me now, if he would have been able to tell his story, I think this could have been a really good movie.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's a lot of fun. The campiness kind of works. There were moments where I was genuinely laughing out loud. Like there are definitely some great comedic moments going down in this movie. But absolutely. And for those of you, we've been talking about Terry Gilliam now. For those that don't know who Terry Gilliam is a master of what he does. Terry Gilliam has directed one of my most favorite films, 12 Monkeys, with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt. Phenomenal fucking movie. And the making of that is absolutely insane. I've watched the behind-the-scenes making of 12 Monkeys I don't even know how many times because I love watching Terry Gilliam lose his mind about not getting the camera in the right angle or the right turn or the right whatnot. He also directed the last Heath Ledger film, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which I thought was also a lot of fun. A very, very fascinating film about a guy that has the capabilities of bringing people into different worlds. He also directed a movie called Brazil, a movie called Time Bandits. He directed Robin Williams in one of Robin Williams' best roles called The Fisher King. That film stars Jeff Bridges as well. And if you have not seen The Fisher King, check that fucking movie out. That movie is, oh my God, that movie's nuts. And he also started out with the Monty Python people as an animator. And he's in Monty Python. He's actually the animator that dies, if you remember that, in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they're like, oh, the animation was supposed to be finished, but the animator died of a sudden heart attack. And he goes, ugh! Like he just like falls away from the table. That's Terry Gilliam.
He also directed that movie.
Exactly. Yeah. So he has been around and he knows exactly what's going on. And I really respect the guy as a director and as a storyteller. And he has always had an interesting imagination.
Yeah, I mean, he directed Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh, I don't know why I didn't even bring that one up. Good God. That one is, oh man, what a fucking trip of a movie. So, oddly enough, Terry Gilliam's first choice for playing Wilhelm Grimm was Johnny Depp. And the studio, the Weinsteins did not want to cast Johnny Depp. This movie was being shot in 2004 and then finished in January of 2005 because of the time he took off to, get his head together with all the turmoil that Bob and Harvey Weinstein, most likely I'm sure Harvey, because who the hell is Bob? I've never seen a picture of the guy. We all know Harvey Weinstein now because of his whole
he's a giant piece of shit.
Debacle. Yeah.
Even I was warned about Harvey Weinstein when I was in the industry, and I was a nobody in the industry. Oh wow. Yeah.
Interesting.
The first year I was in the industry, people warned me about him.
No kidding.
Yeah,
wow.
and that was back when he was getting really close to Lindsay Lohan. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
He's fucking garbage human being.
Yes, he is. He is a pile, and we're all learning even more about how much of a pile he is.
Yes.
It's really nuts, and that's one of the main problems with the entertainment industry is that, it does happen.
Yeah, because there's an imbalance of power there and no checks and balances, and I think that's what gives an opportunity for a lot of this awful behavior and criminal behavior.
Right.
Is because of the imbalance within this industry more so than others, which is why the film industry gets highlighted more often than others.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, moving on from the Harveys.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. People need to be aware. So a couple other people that were in talks for being in this film, actually, Anthony Hopkins was originally cast, but he had to back out. I think he might have been Jonathan Pryce's character.
That would have been great.
I think that would have been a lot of fun. The Mirror Queen was originally going to be Nicole Kidman, and she ended up having to back out because of scheduling conflicts as well. I had the pleasure of meeting Nicole Kidman one time. I was in the wardrobe department of Paramount Pictures, and I was doing a fitting for a bunch of background for NCIS Los Angeles, and I happened to turn around, and I see this woman walking at me, and my eyes had to take a second to adjust, because, I know this face. And then she dropped her hand, and I was like, oh, hello. And she goes, hi, how are you? And I was just like, I'm so good. She goes, wonderful. And she went into another room. She was doing a fitting for something, and I'm going to tell you right now, it was very likely for being the Ricardos.
Oh, shit. Yeah, probably was.
Yeah. So that was very cool. I thought I had, just a little bit of a hello with Nicole Kidman was actually pretty awesome because I do very much enjoy Nicole Kidman. Big fan of Moulin Rouge, and I really like Cold Mountain, even though that's another movie with problematic accents and stuff like that. So a little bit more about Brothers Grimm, written by Aaron Kruger. A lot of people may not know him as a household name, but you know his movies. He is actually a writer on one of our most favorite films of this year. He did writing on Top Gun Maverick.
Nice.
He wrote the Disney live-action version of Dumbo. He did the first few Transformers films. Actually, he did the three after the first one. He did The Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, and Age of Distinction.
Jesus Christ, how many of those movies have been made?
And there's another one coming. I know. He wrote The Skeleton Key with Kate Hudson and Peter Sarsgaard, which actually is a pretty fun flick. It's not necessarily a horror movie. It's more of a thriller. Pretty entertaining movie. Peter Stormare playing Cavaldi, a lot of fun to watch him in this movie.
I love him.
His accent is the same in every movie, and that's one thing that I've always liked about Peter Stormare is he doesn't sacrifice his true voice for any role that he plays. And he's always one of those guys, like, where in Europe is he from? I think you might have mentioned it at one point, but I honestly do not remember where exactly he's from. Do you remember?
I don't. I just always remember his accent being vaguely Eastern European.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
In every
so we
role.
have that. Yeah. Matt Damon ended up fulfilling a long-held ambition to work with Terry Gilliam by getting cast in this movie, so congratulations to him. The production designer, Guy Hendricks Diaz, he was hired based on his strength from being the production designer on X2, X-Men United.
That's a great
which
movie.
is a fucking awesome movie. Director Terry Gilliam's son, Harry Gilliam, played a role as the stable boy, and I think we all might remember the stable boy as He's My Daughter.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
And a fine wife, he'll make some lucky man.
That was awesome. So
Pretty funny line.
You will never in a million years guess where Peter Stormare is from.
Oh, no, where is he from?
Sweden.
He's Swedish?
Right?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I never would have guessed that.
Not at all. No way.
No.
That's actually kind of fascinating to hear because I've met several people from Sweden, most of them being lead singers of my favorite death metal bands.
Exactly.
And they do not sound like Peter Stormare. Granted, Peter Stormare is a 1 in a million, so maybe that's why.
Yeah.
That's funny. Wow, Swedish.
Right?
I really would never have guessed that at all. Because in
Seriously.
Armageddon, he plays a Russian, and in, I think, Bad Boys 2, I don't think
Also
they actually
plays a
talk
Russian.
about where... Yeah,
No,
I think he's Russian
Mom.
too.
He's Russian Mom.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Houston, hello. This is the Russian space station. Yeah, funny stuff. The movie came out in August of 2005, August 26th to be exact. Like I said, I saw it opening weekend with my father in the theaters, and we both had a good time with it. It really, and still is, it's a lot of fun. If anybody's curious to see another Heath Ledger movie that might be actually one of the forgotten gems of Heath Ledger's career, this is definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
He really is great. And so is Matt Damon. They play off each other very well.
They do very
and
well.
I
Seem
really
like
thought it was...
brothers.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah.
And that was still one of those crazy things. Like, wow, they were cast in separate roles and they petitioned to get them switched, and it worked out in the long run. The budget was estimated at $88 million. Opening weekend in the U.S., it pulled in $15 million. Didn't do great. I guess that's pretty good for an
okay.
opening weekend. Yeah, not too bad. The U.S. gross, though, was $37.9 million, so it didn't do well. It only lasted in theaters for 8 weeks. The worldwide gross came in at $105.3 million. So worldwide, it did all right. It only made about $20 million more, but it did lose.
It lost
It
money.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
The unfortunate reality of the entertainment industry is if your movie doesn't really do well in the first month, it's already considered a failure. And unfortunately, The Brothers Grimm was a failure. And Terry Gilliam apparently took that quite personally because of everything he went through with the Weinsteins and the studio. And he actually is on record saying that one of the main reasons he took this movie was because he was getting paid a shit ton of money. So it made me think, like Terry Gilliam, Matt Damon, Heath Ledger. At the time, Heath Ledger, this was 2005, so Heath Ledger had already done Knight's Tale. Heath Ledger was 10 Things I Hate About You. Matt Damon was Good Will Hunting, Oscar-winning writer at the time.
Born
and we
Identity.
didn't Born Identity, right?
Born
Yeah.
Identity, yeah.
And I actually didn't even really get into a lot of Heath Ledger's roles. We talked about him a lot in A Knight's Tale, though, so we don't really need to get too deep into his past. But this is the first film that we're talking Matt Damon, and there's that meme going around in the world now after Interstellar came out. It's like, how much money has the U.S. spent trying to rescue Matt Damon because of Interstellar and The Martian and several other movies where Saving Private fucking Ryan, where he's the one that they're going to bring home because all his brothers are dead. And I mean, Matt Damon's had some great roles, definitely. I've never really not liked Matt Damon. I gotta say, one of my favorite cameos of his is Eurotrip as the punk band lead singer.
Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I think that is one of my all-time favorite cameos as well.
Oddly enough, my wife likes that movie too.
That's awesome. And he's also one of the rednecks in one of the MCU movies. Which one was it? The one
we just talked about that.
Dixon.
Yeah. He's in the back. He's in the truck, right?
Yeah,
the back of the truck. It's one of the most recent ones.
Shit.
I don't know.
Audience,
it might be
help
one.
us out.
I've seen that one though, because I remember I only recognized Tudyk, but I didn't recognize Matt Damon.
Well, he's also Loki in Thor, in one of the Thor movies when Thor comes back. I think it's Ragnarok. When Thor comes back, it's Ragnarok.
That's
when Thor
right.
comes back
to
his home and he's playing Loki in a play, and it's hilarious.
That's right. Yeah, I do remember that. That was good. And of course, let's not forget in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the whole Good Will Hunting 2 hunting season sequence.
Fuck, that was hilarious.
Is quite hysterical.
Yes, that was really funny too. God, he does good cameos.
Yeah, he does, and he always has fun with it. And I actually think his cameo in Entourage was actually pretty great because he went on the tyrant aspect of being a director-writer, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, anytime somebody can make fun of themselves or like a big name like Brad Pitt being in Deadpool 2 for all of 5 seconds made me so happy.
That was
people who
pretty
just
great.
don't take themselves too seriously, I'm always a big fan of.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the Brothers Grimm, again released in 2005. V, I wonder if you might be able to guess the highest grossing film of 2005. It's a franchise movie, and it's actually one of the worst in this franchise, next to a few that just came. Well, actually, next to one that just came out, who's directed by the guy that all of a sudden, for some reason, has 2 Knives Out sequels coming out.
Wow, that was a lot. Hold on. The worst in a franchise.
It's one of the worst in the 3 that were released in the early 2000s. It destroyed a career of one of the actors.
Is it a Star Wars movie?
It is a Star Wars movie, yes.
Oh,
2005.
2005, Revenge of the Sith?
Yes, that's it.
Hayden Christensen.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
God damn, that movie's terrible.
It's really bad. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So that was the number 1 movie. I wonder if you can get the number 2 movie, another franchise movie that... what is this one? This one's actually my favorite of the franchise, and there are 8 movies of this franchise.
Oh, nope, not Fast and Furious. There's now about to be 10 of those. Is it a Harry Potter movie?
It is a Harry Potter movie, yes.
Is it Goblet of Fire?
That would be it. Number 2, highest grossing of 2005. And then the number 3 was War of the Worlds, the Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise masterpiece. And then number 4 was Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, Chronicles of Narnia, which is all right. I haven't watched that one in a long time, but I liked it in theaters. Something tells me it probably doesn't hold up.
It introduced me to Tilda Swinton.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
I can't hate it.
Well, yeah, that's true. Number 5 was Wedding Crashers. Number 7, Batman Begins. Number 10 was Hitch, which I thought was pretty good because Hitch is great. Mm-hmm. Number 19 of 2005, highest grossing, was $1 Million Baby, which I think is a wonderful film.
So good.
Number 29 was one of your picks, Constantine. Number 32 was Sin City, which is an awesome, awesome film if anybody's ever seen that one. And let's see, I don't think my movie here, The Brothers Grimm, scratched the top 100.
No, I wouldn't
unfortunately.
think so.
And number 100, which I still have not seen, but hear great things about, Memoirs of a Geisha.
Oh, it's a very beautiful film. I did prefer the book, but it is good. Chow Yun-fat is amazing in it.
Yes, I hear he's good.
Michelle Yeoh's in it too, I think.
She is, yes. Yeah. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
2005 was a good year.
Yeah, 2005 had some good movies. I mean, top 10 was Wedding Crashers, and that is still one of the best.
Yes.
So, yeah.
God, I love that movie so much.
It is a great one. So that wraps up the Brothers Grimm. Again, Matt Damon, Heath Ledger, written by Aaron Kruger, directed by Terry Gilliam, also starring Monica Bellucci, Jonathan Pryce, and Peter Stormare. And I'm glad you had a good time with it, because I did. And who knows how often I will watch this one, but it'll probably pop up every now and then, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll watch that one again.
Yeah, and I think it was a good pick for our twist on fairy tales week.
Definitely.
And for anyone who isn't familiar with the original Brothers Grimm fairy tales, they are really fucked up.
Yes,
and
they are.
Really dark and really violent. In the original Brothers Grimm telling of Cinderella, the stepmother and daughter who get their comeuppance in the end had their eyes pecked out by birds.
Yeah, that's so twisted.
They're Disney definitely watered down the Brothers Grimm fairy tales.
Kind of had to.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed our Twist on Fairy Tales episode. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any picks that are in this subgenre. And
yes,
hope
please.
you enjoy these two that we have potentially introduced you to.
So, V, would you watch Ever After: A Cinderella Story with Grandma?
I would, and I'm very much looking forward to introducing it to my two nieces
Oh, lovely.
the next time they visit if they haven't seen it yet.
Nice. That sounds like that would be a good time.
Mm-hmm. I think anybody over the age of 8 or 9 could watch that movie.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Nice. And would you watch The Brothers Grimm with your grandma?
Yeah, I would. My grandma is a big fan of fairy tale dark stuff, so I think she'd get a kick out of it most definitely.
Oh yeah, she's into twisted shit like that. She would like it.
Twisted shit, indeed. Grandma likes the crazy stuff.
Yeah. And I would say anybody over the age of 12 could watch The Brothers Grimm.
Yeah, I think 12 is a good age range to start with Brothers Grimm, unless, you have parents that, like a lot of friends of mine they started watching Chucky and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street when they were 6 years old.
No.
So my friend Angie in particular, I think I've talked about it, her and I have watched some horror movies where I'm sitting there freaked out and she goes, "You pussy." I'm like, hey, I didn't start watching horror movies when I was 6 like you.
That's so
But
wrong.
I love her for it. It's great.
That's awesome. It's okay because when we watch horror movies, you could say the same thing to me.
Well, I'll be still as scared as I was the first time because that's why I like horror movies. They scare the hell out of me, and I still love that feeling, that terror.
No.
You like happy horror?
No, I do. No, I've started to like horror more because of you.
Oh,
and
yay.
I hope to continue that trend as we move forward in the podcast. But I definitely have to be in the right mindset. And lately I've been a little bit more tired, a little bit more stressed from work. And so I don't have the mental capacity to be oh yeah, let's be stressed out for 2 hours more.
Right, yeah. I've been feeling that way ever since it went from October 31st to November 1st. I have a handful of horror movies that I did not get through in October, and I am looking at my collection and I'm scrolling through the horror section of some of the streaming of apps, and I'm just kind of no, I'm kind of in the mood to be cozy and enjoy myself. Moving forward with likely not watching a whole lot more horror for the rest of the year.
Well, that's good because we have all of our episodes for the rest of the year planned out.
Indeed we do. And man, I'm excited for next week.
That's right. And should we tell our audience what next week is?
Yes, we absolutely should. We are going to turn the tables a little bit. We're going to do sequels. I'm choosing a sequel from 1993. This movie is one of my favorite films as a sequel. I think it still to this day holds up. It's directed by Steven Surgic. It is written by Mike Myers and Bonnie Turner and Terry Turner, starring Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, Tia Carrera, and Christopher fucking Walken. This is going to be Wayne's World 2.
And I am picking one of my all-time favorite sequels, Addams Family Values, starring Raul Julia and Angelica Houston.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. I think I've seen it one time in my life.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to watch it again.
Yes. And I think you and I both know Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2 by heart. So I'm very excited to get into Wayne's World 2 and discuss that with you, because I honestly did not know that you were such a big fan of both of those movies, and it really is going to be a great time.
Yes, I agree.
It's going to be party time.
Excellent. Yes, and I haven't seen that movie in years, so I'm really excited to...
Oh, I watch both of them at least once a year, mainly for my enjoyment and also just to really irritate my wife because she does not like them at all.
Oh, no. They're hilarious. That's too bad.
They really are. They're so good.
So those are our movies next week. We are doing sequels and just really looking forward to watching those and discussing them with you. And thanks everybody for tuning in this week. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate it and really need it for our podcast to thrive. So please, if you have a free minute, if you can do that for us, that'd be great. And we always love hearing from our fans, so please feel free to reach out to us on any of the social network platforms. We are at Movies You Miss Pod, as well as moviesyoummisspod@gmail.com if you want to start a conversation.
Yes, please do indeed. And one final thing before we sign off with our usual sign-off. V, congratulations on 1,500 podcast downloads. That's pretty sweet. I was very excited to see those numbers and statistics come in.
And right back at you, buddy. I'm so stoked that people are enjoying this podcast as much as we are.
Absolutely. So again, guys, thank you very much for joining us, episode 30. And as always, we do like to sign off with film is a form of art. And in all art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
Heath Ledger's Joker wasn't one of, if not the best Joker iteration ever.
Hey, that's a good one.
Thanks.
That's a good one. I do agree. As much as I actually really, really like the Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix Joker, there will never be a better Joker, in my opinion, either. Heath Ledger really just made you, craziness. Awesome performance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. See you next time. Cheers.
Bye-bye.